Now. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Marauder Morning. I say it every week, and that's because we just keep pumping out these fantastic episodes. I'm here once again with my two favorite guys, Mark and Ryan. Let's do the weekly check-in. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad.
Doing good.
Right on.
Yeah.
You guys ready to talk some sports today?
Of course.
Right on. Let's get to it then. We got a lot on the docket today. We're going to start with some NHL news, courtesy of our man Ryan. We've got a lot of things to hit on there. Then we're going to talk a little NFL. We got a weird situation going on in Houston with their NFL franchise, so we'll hit on that. And then we're approximately about a quarter or a third of the way through the NBA season, so we're going to do a little check-in there. We're going to talk Kristaps Porzingis. We're going to talk the Nets trade. We're going to talk what's going on with Dallas in general, and then we're going to revisit our division predictions, and then we're going to do our draft of the week, which is our best contenders after about a third of the season. So lots to get to, and let's just start at the top with our NHL news. Ryan, I understand you want to talk about how well Montreal is doing right now.
Yeah. So in each division, the Central, the East, the West, and the North, obviously, a lot of the teams that I had predicted to be at the top or at the top, and a lot of the teams I predicted to be at the bottom, like Detroit and all those guys they're filling the ballot. But Montreal, they've been so surprising me this year, and I think they're surprising a lot of people. They made some key moves in the offseason. Obviously, I think I said it before, Toffoli, Perry, Anderson, and their new defenseman Romanov. They're playing like a completely different team. I know last year they just slid into the playoffs, but this year it looks like they could take the league.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like they're sweeping teams, and it doesn't even look like they're trying half the time.
Wow.
And Carey Price, their number one goalie in the world at one point, doesn't even look like he's trying half the time, and he's not even playing that well. And they still have a 7-1 and 2 record. So yeah, surprised so far.
Are they in Toronto's division? Is that?
Yeah, North Division is Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, and then Ottawa.
Right, all the Canadian teams, are all in that one division. Are they the best out of these Canadian teams right now as we sit today? Do you think they have the best shot to take this division?
Yeah, as of right now, I think them and Toronto are going to end up at the top.
All right, well,
I think without a question.
Without a question. All right, good confidence from Ryan there for the Habs coming back strong. But I understand they're going to get a little competition from their buddies out there in Edmonton, McDavid and Draisaitl. I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. Correct me. But they combined for a historic night the other night. Tell us about that combo over there in Edmonton.
Yeah, 11-point night combined for the both of them. And, I mean, McDavid, arguably the best player in the league, and Draisaitl is up there at number 2. And I don't know. Even after an 11-point night between the two of them, I think it's crazy how they're still only 6-6 between to start off the year. It's a little upsetting because it just means they're so top heavy and they can't. They don't have a lot of defensive and goalie support. But I hope they figure it out, because last year they had a pretty good year. But yeah, this year they've gotten off as a team. They've gotten off to a shaky start. But yeah, McDavid and Draisaitl are on pace for 100+ points in a 52-game season.
Wow.
So 2 points a game, which is pretty crazy. Those are Gretzky type numbers.
Wow, big name to throw out there, especially when you're talking Edmonton Oilers hockey.
Yeah.
How far away are they from contention? Obviously, we have the two guys at the top, but you mentioned it, a little bit of a lack of depth behind them. How many moves away do you think this team is? Are they just a couple pieces away, or is it going to take an overhaul of the guys around McDavid and Draisaitl?
Well, I know with the Oilers, in my opinion, they gave way too much money to their goalies. They signed a guy who was a pretty shaky starter. They signed him to like a $5 million deal, and I mean, like the way the contracts are now, it seems pretty cheap. But there's no way a guy who's letting up 4 goals a game should be paid $5 million a year. And then they had Mike Smith, but I'm pretty sure he's injured. So yeah, just I think what they need is a solid goalie. And I feel like they have enough pieces to trade away for that solid goalie, but obviously there's not a lot available. But yeah, like they're right there. If they can get a solid goalie, I'm sure they would figure it out. But
all right, well, that's 2 pieces of pretty good news for Canadian teams. I like where we're going with this. We're going to head a little bit south of the border for a little bit of wacky hockey news. Tell us what's going on with Tony DeAngelo, formerly of the New York Rangers.
yeah,
Go ahead and tell us what happened there.
So that's a pretty sticky situation. So New York and Pittsburgh played the other night, and so we had DeAngelo and Gorgiev, the New York goalie, get into a little scuffle. So play goes on. A tired Rangers group was left on the ice, and Crosby comes down and scores a game winner. Everyone gets off the ice. New York goes back to the bench. The goalie, Gorgiev, he's disgruntled. He's upset. He wanted to win it for his team in the locker room, and DeAngelo kind of walks by him and makes a sarcastic comment, and it ended up in a fight between the two. And so everything gets figured out, and then they go home, obviously, and DeAngelo gets a call from his agent and says, "Okay, you played your last game as a Ranger." And it's not new news because he's had a lot of character issues from my research. Back in 2014, when he was getting scouted to get in the NHL, he was playing in the OHL, obviously. He was disciplined by his coach, and he was suspended for 2 weeks for some choice language that he was using back then. So yeah, he's been a problem since day one, it seems like. And I'm surprised that he's generating as much trade interest as he is. But I mean, I guess players don't care, or teams don't care about their character issues. They just want the decent player that he is. So.
Yeah, you mentioned it. A lot of interest around this guy for how much of a problem he seems like he was in New York and before this in his career. Do you how quickly is this going to happen, Tony DeAngelo on another team? He's still on the Rangers roster officially, right?
Officially, yeah. He was put on waivers, so
okay.
He's kind of in between their farm system and their actual team. But if I was New York, I would sit on it. I would make him pay. I would just wait for the best trade possible, and if you can't find it, then let his contract roll out. I think he's only signed to a 1-year deal. I can search it up, but I can't imagine he signed for too long because I know he was having contract issues. But I don't think they're feeling too much pressure to trade him away. I think once they find the right trade, then they'll trade him away.
Interesting. Yeah, a little bit unusual news from the hockey world. Unusual for the sports world, really. You don't hear a lot of guys talking themselves out of a job, fighting teammates. I can only think of a few examples across sports. All right, thank you for that report on Tony DeAngelo. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Let's talk about some other NHL news. Round it up here. We've got an injury to one of your favorite guys, McKinnon, who won our Rookie of the Year Marauder Award.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell us all about that.
McKinnon won Rookie of the Year?
Did he? Let me double check that.
I think he was Makar. Yeah, no.
Right, I had my guys mixed up. That's on me.
Just to keep it quick, though, Colorado is they're in some injury trouble. They've got like 6 guys out. They're all week to week. But that's why they had the taxi squad invented for this year. So they're not hurting too much, but obviously you want your guys to stay healthy. From the reports I've seen, they said that it was nothing to be too concerned about. So
we'll keep an eye on those Colorado Avalanche. You've turned me into an Avalanche fan, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. You converted me over.
Glad to hear it.
And then last thing, as we talk NHL news, give us a little update on the trade we talked about last week, the Dubois-Lane trade that went down. Give us a little update a week out.
Yeah. So Laine played his first game last night. Just in my opinion, he looked a little shaky. I think obviously he's excited to be there. Everyone's excited to have him, but it just kind of looked like they were trying to force the puck to him. They wanted to include him as much as possible. But obviously that all the meshing and then the gelling with the team takes a couple games, so they'll figure it out. And Dubois, he's stuck in the Canadian quarantine sort of situation, so we won't see him until next week. But when that happens, I'll definitely give you an update. So
right on. There we go. Just a little mini update on the Dubois Laine trade, not Lane. As I said, I'm still learning the hockey guy names, so bear with me. But thank you, Ryan. That was a lot of NHL news to get through. You did it admirably. And let's go on to our next thing. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on and talk about the Houston Texans situation that's going down right now. I don't know how much you guys know about it. I know you're aware. But let's just kind of run through the basic details to start off. Houston Texans quarterback, as of right now, Deshaun Watson, is unhappy because he was told he would get a say in the hiring of the new coach and GM of the Houston Texans. Team went behind his back or straight up lied to him, and he didn't end up getting a say in those hirings and was actually very displeased about who they hired, and is now requesting a trade out of town. This is the only time I can remember a quarterback becoming available right in his prime. If he is available, the Houston Texans have said they're not interested in trading him, but Deshaun Watson is not interested in playing for the Houston Texans any longer. So what are you guys' takes on this? I'm interested to hear about what you think of the situation and what Deshaun Watson should do as he's faced with this kind of conundrum. Start with Ryan, maybe?
It sounds like Houston, we have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Because, the Rockets had the same deal with Harden not too long ago, and then now the Texans. I know when we were talking about it, you said that the Texans just a couple of years ago or last year, they were on their way to making some moves in the playoffs, and now just one year removed, and they look like a dumpster fire at times. It's tough, but you see a lot more athletes nowadays voicing their opinions, and if they're not happy with their situation and they want out, they'll let their team GMs know. Good on Watson for realizing what he wants and what he doesn't want clearly.
All right. So we had a little bit of a mishap there. You may have noticed a little bit of choppiness in the early part of this episode. We were having some Wi-Fi troubles. I was having some Wi-Fi troubles, more specifically. But it's 24 hours later, and we're trying again. We're going to pick up right where we left off. We were talking Houston Texans. Hopefully the Wi-Fi is much better today. Say a quick prayer to the Wi-Fi God. And hope for good connection. Yes. But let's pick up right where we left off. Ryan, you had just finished talking about how there's more of a culture of athletes being able to force their way out of bad situations these days. And Deshaun Watson is kind of a result of all that. I think it's a great point. And I think it starts in the NBA with this, everyone wants to point to LeBron as the player empowerment idol. And then I think in the NFL, it kind of started with Antonio Brown, who partly wanted out and partly the team didn't want him there. He was kind of the problem child of the Steelers and was able to force his way out of town there. What do you guys think of this? Is this a good thing for sports? Is it a good thing for fans, for athletes to be forcing their way out of situations? I'll go to Mark. Mark, you haven't talked much this episode yet.
I know. I'm a little on the fence about the player empowerment kind of trend, I guess. But in terms of Deshaun Watson's situation, I think like nothing's worse than playing for an owner who doesn't want to win. Like I think that DeAndre Hopkins move, when they just traded him for nothing, he's one of the best receivers in the league. I think that kind of shows just how much that owner cares about winning. And yeah, I mean, in his case, I'm totally behind him. But you know, there's some other players in the sports world that I don't totally support, like James Harden being a little crybaby. But yeah, I think I'm on Deshaun Watson's side for sure.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'd agree with Mark. Yeah, Watson wasn't in a good situation. I mean, he had the world and everything in Hopkins, and they should have tried to build around that. But obviously they traded him away, and you've seen the repercussions of that this year. But yeah, players like Dubois, Line, and Harden, like you mentioned, like they have like decent situations going on, and it's just like, I don't know, sometimes it's an ego problem. So like there's good and there's bad to it, but I think it's good that players don't feel trapped in their current situations. They feel like they have a voice, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, like given the option between what we have today and, you know, let's say like the 70s when we had free agency in quotes, but players were basically trapped in their situations unless the teams decided they could leave. So given the choice between that and this, I'm going to pick what we have going on right now because, yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Deshaun Watson is in a bad situation. Nobody around really wants to help him, and even if they do, they're not doing a very good job of it. So I think he's fully justified to force his way out. You know, the Antonio Brown situation I mentioned earlier, he was in a perfect situation and basically cried his way out of town. James Harden as well. You know, what can you really point to that was so awful about that situation, like we've mentioned before? So I'm totally with you guys on Deshaun Watson being able to force his way to town and player empowerment in general. You know, it's the same thing as LeBron. Cleveland didn't really give a crap about surrounding him with anything solid. They gave him Kevin Love, but that's about it. What about for fans? From a fan perspective, when you see a guy on, you know, your favorite team, pick a sport, pick a player, are you happy to see them get out of a bad situation, or would you rather guys kind of tough it out a little bit more?
Yeah, I think I definitely respect loyalty. Like I think of like Lillard, like Damian Lillard with the Blazers. Like he's not one to shy away from like competing with other I don't know, players at his position and try to win where he was drafted. And I think it's a character thing. I think I look at like him and like John Morant. I feel like they're both like from smaller schools, kind of just have a chip on their shoulder. So I think I like that part about competitors and athletes. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I guess everyone wants to win a championship, and so some people just accept that they can't do it wherever they're at.
Yeah.
Put Brad Beal in that boat too.
Yeah.
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 He's a little.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. No, I really like the Damian Lillard example though, because Damian Lillard has been super outspoken about this. He said, "I'm not going to sell myself out to go join a super team or chase rings." I think that really endears guys to fans. Like, you know, when Damian Lillard will likely stay and retire, Portland Trailblazer, you know, from what he said, unless, you know, something happens and he wants to move on later in his career. But I think we're coming to the end of the era where we're going to see guys like Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant. Trying to think of some football examples because we're technically supposed to be talking football. But, you know, guys that stay with their team for 14, 15 plus years and retire with the team that drafted them. It's, you know, for better or for worse, we're kind of getting to the end of that era. And, you know, we all agree good for Deshaun Watson, but I do worry about guys prematurely trying to exit their situations. I think of like Chris Webber back in the 90s. They gave him a weird contract where he's able to opt out after 1 year with the Golden State Warriors. But so I don't think we'll see anything like that again. But I just worry about players getting a little too entitled, and that's kind of a gray area. There's nothing solid you could point at to go, okay, this is, getting bad. But do you guys worry about that, or are you okay with players continually being able to hold more and more of the power in these situations?
So it's funny you bring that up because I have a perfect hockey example.
Right.
Actually, a guy that's on my wall. So Matt Duchene, he played for Brampton Italians, and then he got drafted by Colorado. And they were working on this like master rebuild plan, and everything was like aiming up. And they hit a little setback. They were last in the league before the trend started to get better. And he went to Joe Sakic, the GM, and he's like, "Look, I want out. I want to play for a competitive team. I want to play for a playoff team." And so that was a guy like I'm so connected to. Like I wanted him to be an Avalanche forever. And he asked for a trade, and ever since then he hasn't been on a playoff team, and Colorado has been to the playoffs every year since he's left. So it's kind of just like a premature, like, okay, you're forcing your hand. Well, this is what happens. So
yeah, that's actually a really good point you bring up, is that when you force your way out of one situation, there's no guarantee that you're instantly going to a better situation. Obviously, like LeBron, we mentioned, going from Cleveland to LA, there's certain guaranteed benefits. I'm sure we could list them all, but like, let's talk to Deshaun Watson. The reason we're kind of talking about all this, he's mentioned he wants to go to the New York Jets, or there's rumors out there that he wants to go to the New York Jets. He hasn't said it specifically, but the rumors are out there. The Jets were the second worst team in the league last year. They won 2 football games. If they have to give out 3 or 4 first-round picks to get Deshaun Watson and maybe some quality players, is that really going to be a better situation than what's going on in Houston? You're going from 4-12 to 2-14 if you're Deshaun Watson. So I think he has to be careful about just how he does this. And he has a no-trade clause, which is important to mention, because that means if Houston finds a trade, he can veto it. He has the last word, which is a great power position for him to be in to pick his next team. But I'd just be very careful if I was Deshaun Watson about where you go, especially in football. I find that those first-round picks can end up being very valuable. They could end up being not anything at all, but that's a lot of capital to give up for one guy, even though it is an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I seen that they were trying to. He was saying that he could see himself in Miami,
Right.
and he was saying that they would flip Tua for Watson. And I was over there as a Miami fan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want somebody that doesn't want to be in their situation to come in and screw up Miami when I believe in the process that Miami has going on. So yeah, that's another side of the coin. Like if he, even though he wants out of Houston, doesn't mean that people are going to want to bring him in. Doesn't mean that people have the facilities to bring him in. So it's a challenging situation.
Yeah, and yeah, you talk about teams like you mentioned not wanting to get in on it. I think the other thing of worry is teams that just chase the rabbit a little bit too much. They get focused on Deshaun Watson, forget about the other 20 positions on their football team, 21 positions. Yeah, so Miami is kind of an interesting one. If they can get him for the right price, I think it would be really good. I would flip Tua for Deshaun in a minute. Obviously straight up, but it's going to take some draft picks and maybe some other players going along with Tua. If they can get him for the right price, Miami is ready to win pretty soon. Another team like San Francisco, who was in the Super Bowl last year, if they can get him for the right price, it could be really explosive and really, really good. But I just worry about teams totally hamstringing themselves just to get the shiny quarterback.
Even the Raiders, they're looking for a quarterback, aren't they?
That's
They're
right.
trying to flip Carr for an established number one.
Yeah. Derek Carter is one of those frustrating guys who sits right in the middle of the league and is never really too good and is never really bad enough to get rid of. So Oakland could be in on that Deshaun Watson conversation, but again, they have so many holes on their football team, so many areas that need to get better. I'm not sure upgrading the quarterback is priority number one. But it's really interesting. I can't wait to see what happens with Deshaun Watson. He's an awesome player. And, yeah, I'd love to see him somewhere where they want to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're putting yourself out there, claiming that, you can't win with this team, like wherever you go, like you better win. If you're saying that, your team's the problem, like if you go to another team, like you should win, do what Brady did, like left the Patriots, went to the Bucks, back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The nice thing for the Bucks was that they were able to get him in free agency, so they could just Tom Brady in free agency, which is always ideal, but it's going to be a big price to go up and get Deshaun Watson out of Houston.
True.
So we'll wait and see. But I'm excited for Deshaun Watson.
Do you think so? A team like Houston, because other teams know that Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be there. You think they hold less trade chips just because, like, they know that he doesn't want to be there? Or you think it doesn't really matter?
Normally, I would say yes for sure. You always hear teams like Jared Goff, who just got traded for Matt Stafford. The Rams, up until the minute he got traded, always our quarterback. We're not really interested in trading him. He's going to be here. So teams usually try to put out that, hey, we want to keep this guy and all that stuff and then trade him. But Houston is kind of stuck here, except for that Deshaun is such a good player and he's the quarterback, which is so overvalued today in football. I don't think it's going to matter that much in this case, where normally I would say yes. But yeah, it is an interesting kind of situation when the team's not really able to control the narrative going around a player during trade talks. Any other points or thoughts or revelations on the Deshaun Watson conversation?
Doesn't J.J. Watt want out as well?
Yes, that's the other thing. J.J. Watt, one of my favorite players of all time, also wants out. He's like Captain America, he's the consummate professional. So if he wants out, that's a bad situation.
So
that's a good indicator. Yeah, I think we can safely say it's not so hot in Houston right now.
You think they both get flipped by the start of next year? Or?
I think Deshaun does. I think that's by the start of the regular season. I think he's out of there. JJ, I could see hanging around for another little while. He's got a pretty big paycheck, and they might just not be able to move him. He's 31 now, or 32, I want to say. So coming down towards the slope end of his career, and he's still owed a lot of money. So we'll see. Yeah. The other thing to note is that the NFL salary cap is going to go down next year. So guys might get squeezed on their salaries. We could see a lot of veteran cuts and stuff. Just something to keep an eye on with teams. The teams might not be looking to add big salary guys for the cut down of the salary cap. All right, there we go. That's our little talk on Deshaun Watson and everything surrounding that kooky situation up there in Houston. I don't know what it is about Houston sports, but nobody wants to be there right now. Maybe ever since the Astros cheated, there's just bad air around Houston, bad karma. They squeezed all the karma out of Houston to get that one World Series, and now it's all coming back around.
Got a problem, Houston.
Right on. Let's go to NBA. We're about halfway through our program here today. Let's spend the other half talking a little NBA. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we're about a third of the way through the season. The Grizzlies have only played like 16 games, but other teams have played like 21. So, COVID year. It's what's happening. But we've got a pretty good idea of who everyone is at this point. Let's talk some stuff. Let's do a little update on the Brooklyn Nets trade of James Harden. Speaking of Houston sports, let's talk James Harden's new team, the Brooklyn Nets. What have you guys seen? We've all been keeping our eyes on this Brooklyn Nets team, of course. What have you guys seen out of the brand spanking new shiny trio down there in Houston? Mark?
Yeah.
Or Ryan? Whoever wants to go.
You can go, Mark. You can go.
Okay. I think what stood out to me most is KD is still scoring a lot. I think it stood out the most because I have him on my fantasy team. So I've been seeing he's still dropping 30 points, which is I think is a good sign. But another big thing is that they I think they have one of the most, I don't know, highest scoring trio in NBA history, I think. But they also give up the most points in NBA history. I think that was the stat. I'm not sure. So I think that's, I don't know. You got to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. Ryan?
Yeah, so since the trade, they're 7-3, so that's a nice thing. And then like Mark was saying, like they're scoring a ton. Like they're reaching numbers like 140 in a game and all that other stuff, but they're allowing a ton. So if they're scoring 140, they're allowing 138, and it's tough to win games when it's that tight. So along with the tight games, they've had a lot of like weird losses. Like they can win against the LA Clippers, who are supposed to be one of the top teams, but then they can lose. I think it was back-to-back games against Cleveland.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's supposed to?
I'm looking at the schedule right
not
here.
Be, yeah, they're not supposed to be like a prestige like top end team. And with three superstars like KD, Kyrie, and Harden, you definitely should be losing to a team like that. So it's definitely weird. I would say weird so far.
Yeah, it is odd. Like you mentioned, they are winning. 7-3 is good, but yeah, some really weird games. Those Cleveland games you mentioned, the first one was 147 to 135 in double overtime. And then the second game was 125 to 113. Another game, they lost to Washington 149 to 146. So it's an arms race in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's like if they can't score 150 points, they're going to lose the game. But they are totally capable of scoring 150 points in a game. It's so... I wouldn't call it frustrating. I'm not frustrated by it. I'm confused by it, but also not. It makes perfect sense with these three guys. Yeah, it just seems wrong for basketball. I'm a guy who likes a 80 to 75 game, pound in the paint and let's go to work. But so this is not my style of basketball, but it seems to be working. And these guys, no frustrations yet. They're all kind of getting their scoring. James Harden has sacrificed some points per game, I've noticed, but really not that much. You look at the team leaders. Kevin Durant has 31 points a game. Kyrie is at 28 points a game. James Harden's at 24, which is low for him, but still 24, 25 points a night is pretty high scoring capability.
And he's still cashing in triple doubles too. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like it. The one thing I was worried about is we were just going to have nights where one out of the three got hot or two out of the three got hot and, one of the other guys just disappears off the map. But that doesn't really seem to be the case so far. So from my assessment, I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with how the Brooklyn Nets are doing so far. How would you guys rate the experiment?
I would rate it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's concerning or not that they're losing against like teams like Cleveland and Washington, because in the grand scheme of things, like when they're going for the finals and all that, they're not going to be seeing Washington. They're not going to be seeing Cleveland. So I think their first real test was that Clippers game. And from what I've seen, it was pretty successful. I think until we see them play like a Lakers team, we won't know for sure. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I like it so far. It's hasn't blown up yet. So,
Mark?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think those losses to those lower level teams don't mean as much, because I feel like those lower level teams just come to those games acting like it's the NBA Finals, like giving it all they got to win. But it's those wins against like the Bucks or the Clippers that I think really show what kind of team this Brooklyn team is. Yeah. And because like in the playoffs, like you're in a 7-game series, I don't think you can come up with a scheme to stop all three of those guys on one team. Like it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it'll be an interesting playoff run for the Nets for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to get into these playoffs. And I think that's a really smart thing you mentioned there, Mark, is everyone has, ever since this trade went down, everyone looked at their calendars and circled the Brooklyn game and went, okay, we got to get these guys. This is our, now teams are, they were on high alert when it was Durant and Irving, and now it's Durant, Irving, and Harden. Teams are coming after them with everything they got. So you saw like Colin Sexton had 2 amazing games against this Brooklyn Nets team, and he just, he was firing on all cylinders, way higher of a level than he usually does. But yeah, I'm really excited to see these guys in the playoffs. They have a cool stretch coming up. We got Toronto and Philly are their next 2 games. Then Detroit, Indiana, a couple crap games. But then Phoenix, Lakers, and Clippers in a stretch.
Damn.
So keep your eye on the Brooklyn Nets. I feel like that stretch will kind of tell us what they really are. Like you mentioned, Ryan, against the benchmark of the league in the LA Lakers. Anything else you guys want to add about Brooklyn Nets basketball?
Not much.
Nope.
Just hope for the best. Hope it doesn't explode.
Yeah, that's the thing, is everyone's just sitting here holding on and waiting for this thing to implode on itself. But maybe it won't. Maybe we'll all be pleasantly surprised and it'll all go smooth.
Because when I think about it, the Golden State situation, I thought everything was good and well. And then you've seen that one outburst from Durant on Draymond.
Yeah.
And then you talked about how KD was never really comfortable there.
Yeah.
So you just hope it doesn't turn out like that.
Yeah, that whole thing with KD Draymond just kind of cascaded in on itself and ended with, it didn't end horribly. They still made it to the finals. But yeah, it'll be one of those little things that will just spiral. It'll be another Kyrie disappearance, or James Harden decides he wants 35 points a night again, or any number of things could happen. But we're all hoping for the best for the Brooklyn Nets. All right, let's move it back over to Texas. We're going to talk about the Dallas Mavericks and just what the heck is going on with the Dallas Mavericks, who have one of the best players in the NBA, Luka Doncic, maybe the best player in the NBA, depending on who you ask. But he has some real trouble around him. They have lost 6 straight games at last count. What the heck is going on? I'll ask you guys. Where's the trouble with the Dallas Mavericks?
Go for it.
Go for it, Ryan.
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, I knew I clicked something. Sorry about that. I was trying to get their last game. Did they win last night?
They did. All right. So, yes, let's pull up the Dallas Mavericks schedule. No worries. Yes, they did finally win a game against the Atlanta Hawks.
The Atlanta Hawks.
So 6-1, or 1-6, sorry, over their last 7 games.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, Porzingis was out for a large chunk of the start of the year, and I know Luka, because he's one of my favorite players. He was battling some underlying injuries just because they only had 2 months to sort of rest up for the year. But yeah, I don't know. They're just not playing like they did.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's just because it's a COVID year. Maybe they're not dealing with it with the best. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely expect more out of them.
Yeah. Like, let's take a look at our division predictions we did early in the year. All 3 of us had Dallas finishing at the top of that division. Yeah. And right now they are at the basement of the West. So obviously we had high expectations for this team. I think we all kind of looked to Luka as maybe the savior of that team. Yeah, but you take a look at the roster around Luka. Kristaps Porzingis is supposed to be that number 2 guy, and we'll talk about him in a second, why he's maybe not living up to that. But you look at some of the other names on this roster, like you got Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway, James Johnson, Tyrell Terry. It's just uninspiring. So did we overestimate this Dallas Mavericks team, or is it just too early to tell? Can they still turn it around, do you guys think?
Man, I hope they can turn it around, because the roster is very similar to the roster last year. I think they only lost. I think Seth Curry was one of the notable players that walked away, but like that's not losing too much. I'm hoping it's just Luka trying to figure stuff out. Like he is super young and it's kind of like the whole team on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think him and Porzingis could be deadly if they figure it out.
Yeah.
Like them two, they can put up numbers. So I don't know, and I don't feel like the West got more difficult to play in. I feel like their division got easier, like with Harden leaving.
For sure.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but I'll push back on you a little. I think the Seth Curry loss might be a little bigger than it seems. That and JJ Barea. JJ Barea is one of the leaders of that team, and I think there's kind of a leadership void. I'm not sure if Luka is that that LeBron James type spiritual leader guy. It looks like he's trying, and good for him for stepping into that role, but I'm not sure he's that guy. And then the other problem that gets created with the loss of Seth Curry is 3-point shooting. Luka can distribute the ball and move it around, but there's no one on this team to fear from behind the arc. Like, nobody at all that I would consistently worry about hitting 3-point shots. So, yeah, Luka's great. Luka's amazing. But I really concerned about the roster around him, and I don't see many answers with what they have in the building. Ryan, any thoughts on the Dallas Mavs roster?
Yeah, I thought the Josh Richardson trade for Seth Curry was going to work out a lot better for Dallas. I thought maybe they would have like some toughness to guard like some of the bigger shooting guards, but I definitely don't think that Josh Richardson is the same shooter as Seth Curry was. And yeah, along with what you said, JJ Barea, he was definitely a glue guy. And he was definitely one of those guys that was teaching Luka, who's extremely young, sort of the ropes in the league. And I think it has a bigger influence than a lot of people thought. And yeah, like they're battling injuries, so I'd hope that he can figure it out because I want Luka to thrive, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope that somewhere in the building there's a one-way phone, one of those big red phones that links just directly to Dirk Nowitzki that Luka can pick up, and because Dirk was never one of those, he was an emotional player, but he was never a crazy vocal leader kind of guy, but everybody always knew he was the leader of that Dallas Mavericks team, and he was always the guy that people looked to, and he was a great shooter like Luka, and I just hope he goes and talks to Dirk, because Dirk really figured out how to take a roster of kind of misfit guys and turn them into a team. And it's not totally hopeless. There is talent on this team, but I'm just worried if it's the level of talent that you need to surround a superstar like Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Let's talk more specifically Kristaps Porzingis, though. How do you guys see him after, he's fully come back from this, it was an ACL injury, I believe, either ACL or Achilles, but he missed that whole year last year, or most of the year last year, and now is playing more frequently. But, man, the worry for me is just durability. I don't think Kristaps Porzingis can stay healthy. Do you guys like him as a number 2 option here in Dallas, or what do you think of Kristaps Porzingis?
I love him if he was durable, just because I feel like it's another like Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, like that sort of situation where a guy is so good and like can do so much for his team, but like if he can only play like half the games, then his value is really diminished. I know in his last 2 games he dropped 19 and 10 against the Suns, and then last night he dropped 24 and 11. So like those are like impressive numbers for anybody, and like it's definitely what you need to win. But if he's not going to, if he's only going to be there for half the games, then he's only half helping Luka. And I don't know, maybe they look to trade him for somebody that's durable and maybe puts up a little less numbers.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think injuries is the biggest thing that you can like say against Porzingis. I mean, like I don't know how tall he's, like 7'2", 7'3",
Yeah.
7'3", and he can shoot and he's pretty mobile for a big. So like having that weapon paired with Luka and the way he plays, like man, like everyone would think it would work out well and they'd be a top team in the West. But if he's not playing for most of the season, then you can't really have that in the West. Like you really need to be competing all year long to have a playoff spot. And even when he's there, I think from the very little Maverick games that I've watched, I just noticed they can't really close out games. Like they'll just lose leads or just make bad decisions late in the clock. And I think that it might be a sign of immaturity as a team. But I don't know. They have a really good coach. Like, what's his name again? Rick Carlisle.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, he's like, he's known. He's been in the league for a while. He's won championships. Very smart coach. So, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. I think your JJ Barea point was a great point about leadership.
Yeah. I think this team, I would really just like to see them add another legit scoring option. And look, like legit scoring options, everybody wants one. So they're pretty hard to come by. So you can't just put that on your Christmas wish list and look for it under the tree. But I just think they need scarier shooters, someone that can strike a little fear into the other team. And like what you guys said about KP, it's a great point. Like he has such a great ceiling where he's so mobile. He could shoot and he can play the post and he's so tall, but if you're only there half the time and another quarter of the time you're not playing up to your ability, then what's the point? And Ryan, you mentioned trading him as an option, but he has 4 years left on his contract, $32 million average, which includes a 2023 player option for $36 million. And from where he's at right now, I just don't think that they're going to get anything really good for him. Let's talk about the trade that was centered around Kristaps Porzingis 2 years ago, almost to the month 2 years ago. Dallas got Kristaps Porzingis, Tim Hardaway, Courtney Lee, and Trey Burke. And the Knicks got Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, who I forgot was a Dallas Maverick and also a Knick, and Wes Matthews, and then a couple first-round picks, 2021 and 2023. So we don't have the full scope yet. We have to wait to see what happens with those first-round picks. But are we all in agreement that Knicks won this one? Did the Knicks win this trade? Is that possible?
From a perspective of still having the players on your team, I think Dallas won.
Right.
But Tim Hardaway isn't stealing games. Courtney Lee actually isn't on the team anymore.
Yeah.
And Trey Burke is never heard of. And then obviously Kristaps Porzingis he's still on the team, but hasn't played a large enough sample size, I think. I think other than the 2 draft picks that we don't get to see yet, I don't know if the Knicks would win it if those picks turn out to be good, but I don't know. Dennis Smith Jr. I just feel like I feel like he's good, but he's caught in the New York Knicks overload of point guards where they have all these point guards and they're so good, but they can only play like one at a time, and people kind of just get lost in the shadows.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for Dennis Smith Jr. DeAndre obviously isn't on the team anymore, and Wesley Matthews is on the Lakers. So I don't know. It's hard to pick a winner. I think they're both losers, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that nobody really won this. There's a lot of buzz about 2021 being a really great draft, and if Dallas continues to suck, the Knicks could get really high pick, potentially 2 really high picks if they suck also this year. So we'll see. But I don't think this really was a superstar trade for either team with what they got. But, a also to my point, I don't think they're going to be able to get this for Kristaps Porzingis. What the Knicks got for Kristaps, I don't think Dallas will be able to get that if they try to trade him today. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think his value definitely went down, especially just the injuries. Like he got injured in the bubble, I believe. He messed up his knee, I think. And like as a big guy, like man, any injuries to your legs, like I think it's been shown like bigs don't really recover as well as like guards to those injuries. There's just like so much weight on your knee.
We see it before, right? Yao Ming. When Yao Ming had his first knee injury, he was never, ever the same guy. And Kristaps definitely looks better than that. But those big guys with the knees, it's trouble.
Yeah, like Porzingis in New York, like he was like all-star level, but he never really won there.
No.
And so I guess his trade to the Mavs, like he had to prove that he could win, and he just never had the chance to do it. Like he's never really been playing.
Yeah, that's a good point. There we go. I just looked at the clock. We've been talking a long time about NBA stuff. Only got about 10 minutes left in the show. So we should head to our draft of the week. That's poor time management by me. I was supposed to be running this thing, but I got busy talking basketball. So let's head to our draft of the week, if you guys are good with that. All good? All right.
Yep.
Let's our draft of the week this week. We're talking about the best NBA contenders, the teams we like the most to end up with a ring at the end of this season, based on what we've seen through the first quarter or third or whatever of this season. Don't know how many rounds we're gonna do. We'll see what we have time for. But why don't we start over on the far right here with Mark? Give us your best contender, the team you like the most.
I'll go with the Lakers. LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think. And they just won last year, so I think they're definitely still up there.
Yeah, haven't seen much to change our opinions on the Lakers. There's still LeBron is still that dude. Anthony Davis is still that dude. The pieces around them look nice. It's all coming together. Yeah, they're currently half a game behind in the West, but I'm not so worried about that. That would be my first pick too. Any other thoughts on the Lakers? That's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Ryan. Ryan, who do you like the most or second most, maybe?
For me, I would say the Clippers. 17-6 right now. And Paul George just looks like a completely different player to me. Just watching a couple of the Clippers games. I know he switched up his trainer or his side man, and he just looks like a completely different player, a different mindset to the game, and he's shooting a lot more efficiently. And then obviously you have Kawhi and a lot of the other players that they have. They snagged Batum, so I think they're built for a deep run. And I honestly wouldn't be so disappointed if they kicked off the Lakers and ended up at the top of the West. So
no, I wouldn't either. Totally agree with your Paul George point. He looks awesome this year. I think he saw the episode where we ripped him to shreds, or maybe he saw the 9,000 other sports shows that ripped him to shreds. He saw one of them. Maybe it was our show. Let's pretend it is. Way better. Kawhi, still that dude. And
still that dude.
Yeah, I like the Clippers, and I also would not be mad if they knocked off the Lakers. I think that'd be a lot of fun. See those two teams in a 7-game series. We got deprived of it last year because the Clippers suck so bad, but we'll see. For my pick, I'm mad. Neither of you guys picked the team with the best record in the East, the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's go, baby. MVP Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is the best player in basketball right now. He's dominant. He looks like Shaq. I love it. Ben Simmons hasn't gotten a whole bunch better, but he looks good. Still can't shoot. That's all right. Addition of Seth Curry has been awesome. Got a little 3-point shooting. Doing it all. Doc Rivers leading the team. 76ers, baby. Let's go. All the way to the finals. Love it.
Yeah, they're playing really well.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
As a Celtics fan, yeah, I'm sure you're
jealous.
You're jealous. Yes, sir. 76ers, our time has come, finally. For the first time since Dr. J was in town. We got something to cheer for.
I do like Matisse Thybulle, though. That guy
Yeah.
is a fan favorite of mine.
Yeah, he's nice. He's I don't think he'll be a superstar, but he could be a really nice rotational piece for them for a long time. All right, Mark.
He needs to bring his YouTube videos back.
No, he doesn't. I hate when guys have YouTube channels. Stop. When professional athletes have their own YouTube channels, it's like, come on, man. Get out of your own butt. But anyway, we disagree there. But Mark, round 2. Who do you like?
Brooklyn. We'll go with Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I think that's my team to come out of the East. I think it'll be between Brooklyn or Boston. No, probably not Boston. But yeah, Brooklyn. Yeah. I think my team to come out of the East. I don't know if they'll win in the finals if they go up against LeBron.
Yeah.
If they go up against anyone else, I think they might win. But yeah, I'll choose Brooklyn.
Yes. Fair pick. Yeah, for all the reasons that we mentioned. They're high octane.
Yes, sir.
But their strength is their weakness. So we'll see what happens there. Ryan, buddy, who do you got in round 2?
I'm going to go with the team on Mark's shirt.
Really?
I think the Celtics.
All right.
I do think the Celtics could do some damage. Jaylen Brown, I always knew that guy was going to just soar and just like do some damage in this league. And he's had a ton of games this year where he's looked so dangerous. And obviously Tatum was out for, I think, 7 games or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so they lost a couple of games due to that. But, I mean, like, they don't even have Kemba playing like how Kemba can play, and they're still playing pretty well. So, I mean, if they can figure it out halfway through the year and then get it going, I like Boston.
Right on. Yeah, totally agree. I was out on Jaylen Brown, to be honest. I liked him. I didn't think he was bad or a bust or anything like that. I just wasn't sure he was going to be able to hit the next gear. But holy crap, has he hit the next gear starting off this season. And yeah, super excited for it. Love Jason Tatum. I love that duo. Kemba needs to come back a little bit. He's had some struggles, and I do worry about what their big man situation looks like. Yeah, Mark, what do you think? You passed on the Celtics. Ryan picked them.
Yeah, Kemba's been pissing me off. I don't like him. But yeah, Tatum and Brown, this is what I wanted in, like, when we drafted Tatum. I'm like, okay, like Jaylen Brown and Tatum on the same team, like that's gonna be dangerous in a couple years, and I'm happy it's working out.
Absolutely.
But yeah, same problems as you guys bring up, like point guard and big man. I think those are the main issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about them ever leaving, though, because I've heard so many reports that they're like best friends, and they're like,
love it here.
Yeah, they're like tight knit. So
it's paradise in
best
Boston.
fan base. Yes, sir.
All right, my last pick. I don't like the Jazz at all. That's my 2-second analysis of the Jazz. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. Giannis is probably still the best player in the world. Drew Holiday's there. Why not? Why not this year? Probably not.
Because he sucks.
Probably not, but why not? I'll take the Bucks to finish off. And there we go. We're straight out of time. We got about a minute left. You guys happy with how it went today? Wi-Fi was good.
You held up.
Yes, sir. Happy about that. Hey, special announcement this week. Over at CFMU, we are doing our yearly fundraising. So please head over to our website, cfmu.ca, and please donate whatever you can. $1 will do. Just whatever you can throw in. It helps support peasants like myself get fun radio jobs. And we love it. It helps guys like these two get paid nothing to come here and sit and talk sports. So I appreciate it, and I would appreciate if you go check out the donations page over on cfmu.ca. And while you're over there, check out our show page. We are called Marauder Morning. As always, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Marauder Morning. If you're in Hamilton or the area surrounding it, we are 93.3 on your FM dial. I think I hit everything there. Good week. Good talk. Final words from you guys?
Great show.
Great show. Let's
Second time's the charm.
Second time's the charm. Well said, Ryan, and we'll leave it there. All right.